Go Cowboys!
Week 5 of the NFL season is here, and so is Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort. It's the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams. We've got an entire hour worth of coverage, starting off with a new segment. How about Eye in the Sky? Micah Parsons and that defense have been fantastic throughout the season. How will they get after Matthew Stafford and the Rams? Then you look at some of the matchups that this matchup has in store. The reigning Super Bowl champions, Trayvon Diggs and company, going up against the Triple Crown winner from a year ago, Kupp. It couldn't get much better than that. Two guys who had record-breaking 2021 campaigns trying to carry that into 2022. Then a matchup on the other side of the football. How about CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Ramsey? Jalen Ramsey has been fantastic, the number 4 rated corner in the entire NFL, going up against CeeDee Lamb, who's trying to prove that he's a number 1 wide receiver. And then we've got exclusive content for you as well. Stephen Jones, one-on-one from SoFi Stadium, as we lead you into kickoff between the Dallas Cowboys and the reigning Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams, all coming up on Cowboys Pregame Live. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, preparing for the 28th all-time meeting between the Dallas Cowboys and the reigning Super Bowl champions, Los Angeles Rams. It is Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort, live from the Star in Frisco. Kyle Yeoman's with you, and a trio of former Dallas Cowboys, looking fresh as always. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, and then the 3-time Super Bowl champ himself, Nate Newton, down there at the end. We're soon to be joined by Haley Sutton, Nick Eatman, Rob Phillips, and a plenty more cast and crew here for the go-to game day crew here for Pregame Live. And gentlemen, this is a matchup. It's one of those benchmark tests that we talk about. The Cowboys at 3-1, the Rams at 2-2. They haven't necessarily found their rhythm from the West Coast just yet, but you don't want them to find a rhythm this week. How big of a win would this be for the Cowboys on the road?
You know, I think it just simply means that you're 4-1. All right, this is not the same Rams team that won a Super Bowl last year. Offensively, they're dealing with some injuries, especially on that offensive line. And defensively, they've been struggling with the passing game as well. They're ranked 23rd against the pass. So to me, this game doesn't hold any more weight than the 3 previous wins that the Dallas Cowboys have made.
Well, I agree with you for the most part, Barry, but I think that if you go out here and get a victory against these Los Angeles Rams, you go ahead and prove to yourself that you can handle guys that play of this caliber of ball. You got the front line, you got Aaron Donald, you got Bobby Wagner at the second level, and then you obviously have Jalen Ramsey. And then flip it on the other side, you got a Kupp. So if you can shut down these guys and hope that they don't catch on fire, I think that you can prove to yourself that you can hang with the big boys.
I agree with you 100%, Isaiah. If you can go out and go against this defense with 3 levels of greatness on it like they have, you will be successful. And in your mind, your Cowboys football players' mind, you have arrived, not for the whole season, but just for this moment.
Throughout the benchmarks that they had in 2021, it was games that you wanted to win, like against the Chiefs and the Raiders and the later in the year against the Cardinals. You did not win those games. So whenever the playoffs came around and you went up against the San Francisco 49ers, things didn't go your way, but you also kind of had a roadmap to success, or not so much success, for the Cowboys last year. They want to turn that around this year. This is not a big game in terms of the division. Sure, you want to keep track with Philadelphia. They've been fantastic. New York won again today. So there's ways that this is going to play into it, but you want to have that confidence level continue to grow. Plenty of confidence right now for the Cowboys, though. 3 straight wins. They're 3-1 on the season. Nate, when you look at this Cowboys team, how much credit needs to go to Mike McCarthy for turning this thing around after that opening week loss?
You know, I've said it since the loss to Tampa, man. This guy's been studying what he's been doing. He addressed certain areas where he addressed his offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, saying we need to run the ball a little bit more. We need to make sure that Cooper Rush have the opportunity to be who he can be, and he's done that. He's had a fine balance.
I think he's at a fine balance, but I don't think that he's looking for anybody to pat him on the back or pat him on the butt. Either way, he's taking care of his business. He's going about coaching these coaches. These guys are putting these guys in position to be successful, and ultimately he's doing what they're doing, which is what? Winning ball games.
Yeah, I think he deserves a little bit more credit than what the world's giving him right now. I mean, when things are all bad, it kind of all falls on the head coach, and rightfully so because he's the leader of the team. But when things are going good like they are now, all I seem to hear is Dan Quinn, genius, Kellen Moore, best thing since sliced bread. When Mike McCarthy's the one that put it all together. And if you look at these penalty situations that killed us last year and earlier to part this year, he's made this team a much more disciplined team. So I think McCarthy deserves a little bit more love than he's been getting.
That's a really good point because a lot of the times the head coach is the one that gets the flowers, but he also gets the criticism at the same time. He hasn't gotten those flowers just yet. It's really been Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore that if things are going right, they've been the ones praised. Mike McCarthy, he hasn't received it, but that's kind of where he wants to be. He knows that as long as things are winning and things are going well, he's in the right frame of mind. And he also talked about it this week in his press conference, had a really good soundbite. We're going to hear it in just a second, but basically saying that we're not underdogs, even though the Cowboys are underdogs in this matchup. Here's Mike McCarthy.
We actually started more third down work week 2, coming out of week 1, because that was obviously a detriment to the opener. But the reality of it is, it's first and second down needs to be better. If you look at just last week's game against Washington, it's 6 negative runs. I don't care who you're playing or at what level. That's not where you want to be on second down. So, and that's where we're focused on, and that's part of the self-scout, and it's like anything. You don't want to sit here and beat your guys up over the things that didn't go right, because we got a whole lot that is going right, and we got a lot of good things that came out of the 4-week self-scout. But that's definitely third down. We need to be better on both sides, frankly.
How often do you use the point spread to motivate the team?
I don't know if I ever have. No, I have. What is it this week?
5.5.
We're underdogs? We're good. All right. Just wrote my Saturday night speech. I'm good. No, I've never used it, but I'll just say this: we're nobody's underdog. So if you need a quote.
So those 3 wins with Mike McCarthy and allowing for a couple of jokes in his press conference earlier in the week, coming at the hands of Cooper Rush, who now, of course, making his 5th NFL start. And if you've watched this show, you probably know he's already won the first Cowboys quarterback in history to win his first 4 starts. But it hasn't been all roses to this point just yet. There have been some things that need to be cleaned up on the offensive side, most notably on third down. Keep that in mind as you take a look at some of the numbers. It hasn't been pretty on third down for the Cowboys. They're actually 30th in the league in terms of efficiency in late down scenarios. You can see the numbers there. Even though it may be short yardage situations, the conversion percentage is very low. And then for Cooper Rush specifically, he hasn't necessarily had a whole lot of success on third down either. He's taken 3 sacks out of 5 total that he's had all season long, 43% completion rated, and then you see only the 1 touchdown pass. That was to CeeDee Lamb a couple weeks ago. So I ask you, Isaiah, should the Cowboys be concerned with what they're doing in late down scenarios?
Absolutely, and they better hope that their defense continues to play the way they've been playing, because this is an absolute problem. When you look at their third down efficiency and how they've struggled on that particular down, it's because of what's happening on first and second down. The Dallas Cowboys are on the bottom half of this league in terms of rushing yards. That's not something that we're used to seeing. That when you can't rush the ball, you find yourself in these third and long situations, and then you have a backup quarterback. So what do? You try to protect them. So you're doing a lot of max protection. That's also playing into part in terms of why they can't get more guys out on routes.
I tell you what, man, it's all about paying attention to detail. Your offensive line have to be exact in who they got. Your wide receivers have to be precise in their routes, and your quarterback have to release it on time. It's about attention to detail.
Yeah, my 2 offensive guys basically put it perfectly for you. This is concerning to me because you got to win the money down. Third down is the money now. And to me, the way to do that is you got to win on first and second down. You got to make those third downs more manageable. And to me, to do that, you got to lean more on the ground game. Lean on Zeke, lean on Pollard, which they've been doing a pretty good job of so far this season.
And to stay disciplined from a penalty rate. Mike McCarthy talked about it earlier in the week, saying you can't play behind the chains. You cannot beat yourself. Isaiah mentioned that a little bit earlier as well. Those are 2 big-time emphasis for this Cowboys offense. Cooper Rush, though, he's won these games early on, but is this the toughest test for him going up against the Rams and a team that course, is coming off of a Super Bowl title?
I think so, because what the Rams possess, they possess all pros on each level of this defense. Defensive line, you got Aaron Donald. Second level, you got Bobby Wagner. And, of course, we know what Jalen Ramsey brings to that secondary. And that's something that I don't think Cooper Rush has had to deal with the entirety of this season so far. And these guys can be game wreckers at any opportunity. So I think this will be the toughest task that Cooper Rush has had to go against so far this year.
Agreed, BC. And we saw a recourse of that last week when you talk about the interior defensive line of Washington and their Bama boys that they have. Yeah. When you have those guys creating interior pressure, what did it cause him to do? It caused him to sit back on his back leg a lot and not allowing him to transfer his weight. Also, it caused him to have a little bit of a happy feet, okay? And what resulted in that was 2 interceptions. Now, obviously, those things got called back, but that was troublesome because of the fact that he doesn't like that, right? Much like Tom Brady doesn't like pressure in his face. So now you have Aaron Donald stepping into the fold and a big gains it's right there in the middle. That's going to be a very similar problem, but he just can't throw it up because you got Ramsey in the secondary.
You know, that's why I think we should play that 2 tight ends. Keep everything tight and tight and right, and that way your offensive line can be a little bit more stable. What I need for this guy to do is get the ball out of his hands, whether it's a quick run, a quick pass, or whatever you have to do. Start the game real quick, up-tempo.
And keep that steady hand all the way throughout. Don't get too high, don't get too low. That's one of the things Cooper Rush has done really well to this point in the season. And you hear it here from Cooper Rush, keeping that same mindset despite some of the early success.
Yeah, he's a true game wrecker. You know, he's the best in the game for a reason. You have to account for him in the run game, the pass game. You know, he's the best to ever do it at that position, and it shows every week on tape. So, got a good plan. You know, it's going to take execution, but you know, he's a great player, and you know, the whole defense thrives off him, and they're well coordinated, and it's a good group.
You have to take everything into account when you get up there, but is he the first guy you identify and kind of go from there to try to figure out what they're going to do?
Yeah, you always got to know where 99 is, you know, every week, and he's used to it every week. Teams do it to him too, and he still produces, so it's pretty amazing. But yeah, he's obviously a focal point.
You told us in the last couple of weeks that mentally you kind of go into it just like college, just playing ball. Do you still do that, or is it now more kind of drawing on the experience of what you've been able to do these last few weeks?
Yeah, every snap in practice and in games is huge. To build that experience, you know, I still don't have a lot of experience. Been lucky, been fortunate, played all right, but yeah. So you're learning constantly every play, and so you draw on all those snaps.
Obviously, there's only one Aaron Donald, just like there's only one Bobby Wagner. But what do you draw from, you know, going in practice against these guys, a defense of this caliber in Dallas, to kind of how that can help you prepare for a team like the Rams?
Ourselves, we got some guys that kind of like them. You know, you got Micah, can wreck a game too. You know, Ramsey kind of plays like Diggs, great ball skills. You know, big athletic guy. So you know, you see similar traits in all of them. So always going against our defense helps us because those guys, you know, as we've seen, pretty talented.
Cooper Rush, of course, going for his 5th straight win to start his career as a starter in the NFL. He's one of just a couple quarterbacks to have a chance to do that, the 27th to win his first 4 starts. Let's go out to SoFi Stadium as we welcome you back into Cowboys Pregame Live, where we have on the sideline Rob Phillips live and in person. Rob, this is a stadium that the Cowboys have been to 4 times in the last 3 years, and it feels like every time they make the trip out to the West Coast, they learn something new.
They do, and there's always a lot of Cowboys fans here to support them, Kyle. If you look around just before you guys came to me, there's a lot of Navy in the stands, and Jerry Jones just came out through the tunnel to a big ovation from right above the tunnel, a lot of Navy clad jerseys there. So I don't know if it's going to be 50-50 Cowboys-Rams fans, but it's going to be well represented. And, I mean, if it's kind of like Texas OU, Cowboys certainly hope that it goes in the Texas-style favor from yesterday, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that Red River shootout was certainly a one-sided affair. The Cowboys hoping to do the same thing out in the West Coast. But what is kind of the feel right now on the sideline for this Cowboys ball club, a team that's very confident up to this point with 3 straight wins? Can they carry that over into Week 5?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're able to – one thing about this football team is they've been able to build off things that went well, things that didn't go so well. And I think they've been able to make adjustments. One thing that you like to hear about them, hear from the team coming out of a win like they had last week against Washington was defensively, hey, we weren't good enough in terms of run defense. We're not taking the ball away enough. That's a sign of a team that's believes that they're good. You know, you guys talked about what Mike McCarthy said, whether that was calculated or not, we're nobody's underdogs. They know they're good, but they know there's things they've got to clean up. And I think when you have a situation where Dak Prescott's not there, you do have a slimmer margin for error, especially offensively. You can't make a lot of mistakes and expect to win football games. So I think defensively, build on those things that I just mentioned. And offensively, you guys touched on it a little bit. They've got to continue to stick to the run. Those 28, 29 attempts last week were helpful for Cooper Rush, but they got to get more out of it. They got to be able to avoid some of those negative plays that affect third down. 6 negative runs last week against Washington. That is not putting your quarterback in good situations on second down or third down.
Rob P, man, what's going on? Let's dive straight into it. So my question for you is, offensively for the Dallas Cowboys, who do you think can be the X factor against this vaunted Rams defense?
Man, that's a great question. I was going to say Jason Peters during the week. In fact, I said that multiple times on our shows, and then it turns out he's not going to play because anybody who's facing against Aaron Donald, that's going to be the matchup to watch. So whether it's Connor McGovern, whether it's Zach Martin, whether it's Tyler Biadasz, they're all going to get a crack at him because the Rams move him around. They try to find those one-on-one matchups no matter who it's against. If it's against Zach Martin, fine. Zach has played him very well in the past. I think that's the one to watch. But I'm curious, Barry, to see what happens with Michael Gallup here in his second game back because I think he only had 39 snaps against Washington. He proved to himself, like he talked about wanting to make a statement in his debut from the knee injury last year. I think he proved to himself mentally, too, from a confidence standpoint. He can go out there, play a full plate of plays, and be productive. And to get more production offensively, we talk about the run. I just talked about the run. But they've got to get chunk plays offensively, and he's as good as anybody at doing that down the field, especially in tight windows.
Rob, last week the Washington football team, now are the Commanders, presented a lot of problems with their interior pressure. Obviously, they have Payne and they have Allen in there in the middle. How is Gaines and Donald going to be handled differently to try to give Cooper Rush a little bit more time and ease his mind so that he can sit back there and deliver the rock on third down?
Well, it's a great question. I know you talked about it during the week. I don't know if you expect one guy to handle Aaron Donald on one particular play. And the same goes for Micah Parsons, Isaiah. I mean, you think about – you look at their stats the last couple years, it's almost identical in terms of pressures and sacks. So I think it's one of those things where it's not always the case with a defensive lineman that that's who you're pointing out pre-snap every play. It's got to be Aaron Donald. You know, sometimes as a linebacker, sometimes as a safety. It's AD in the middle there, and that starts there. And so they're going to have to put different hats on him. And it may be some single coverage, but certainly they're going to have their attention on him play to play for 70 plays.
Rob Phillips joining us from SoFi Stadium there on the sideline. Rob, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again down the line. So he just said it there after Barry's question that testing it deep down the field, the Cowboys are going to have to open something up on the offensive end. Michael Gallup helps a whole lot in that area, and he's back this week, or was back last week, and he had kind of a return to the NFL moment with his touchdown in the end zone. Only had the 2 receptions, but it's really about the journey that has taken Michael Gallup all the way back to football, and you could hear really the excitement in his voice after that game last week. But let's go to Haley Sutton, who has more on the journey and really the entire emotion around his return back to the Cowboys receiving corps.
9 months separated from an ACL tear, and Michael Gallup is looking like the player of old. He got his first touchdown last week against Washington, but the road to recovery hasn't been an easy one. I spoke with Gallup earlier this week about his journey back to football and why he's making the most of this season.
Throw in the end zone for Gallup. Caught it. Touchdown, Cowboys.
I mean, it finally happened, you know. I've been saying it for 8 months now. You know, when I come back, that's what you're trying to do, you know, get in the end zone. So it finally happened for me. So now it's just keep stacking.
When Michael Gallup caught his first touchdown of the season against the Washington Commanders in Week 4, it was more than just 6 points on the scoreboard.
Michael, I mean, you better be on your game, particularly vertically, but it was good to get him into the flow of the rest of the offense. So it's great to have him back, and I think it's obvious what he means to us, particularly with our offensive perimeter group.
That touchdown, a testament to the grind of recovery.
You know, that week leading up to it, because, the week before that I didn't want to play just because I haven't felt, what I needed to feel fully to go out there on the field. So that week last week, I had a play, and just making that certain cut, it felt good, and I knew I could do it. So I got my feet wet, got a couple plays in, got a touchdown. So the confidence just went up. So definitely going in this week, just a little bit harder to strain and everything like that.
For months, Gallup has been battling both his body and his mind to get back on the field. And as with any injury, some days are better than others.
My rookie year, my brother passed away, and he was going through something, crazy, something I could never understand, never could feel. So I just always want to get it out there when I see it, because I know, everybody needs a little help sometimes.
And taking the time he needed to feel ready to go made all the difference for the wide receiver.
Being able to cut again, that's the big thing. Everybody knows you can run straight and stuff like that, but just being able to make those cuts, get out of your breaks, I think that's the biggest, mental hurdle that you have to make, because your knee's healthy, but it's like you made that cut before and it didn't turn out, too well for you.
In his first game back, he had 2 catches for 24 yards and, of course, that touchdown, while also drawing 2 key pass interference penalties to put the Cowboys in better field position. A small role to some, but a tremendous feat for Gallup.
Definitely like something that, everybody wants when you come into a team or whatever you're doing. I mean, you just want to be loved out there, make sure you, give that back. So, for me, going out there, doing what I was supposed to do, giving back, I appreciate all our fans.
With his season finally in full swing, Gallup says he's motivated by many factors, but his biggest push is his biggest blessing. His son, Miles, who celebrated his first birthday last month, gives Gallup one more reason to give his all every game day.
I just want to let him know, when he gets older, obviously he'll figure it out eventually that I was hurt for a little bit. You can overcome anything. You can definitely get through it. You just need a little push. You need somebody there, in your corner, and I'll always be in his corner.
Michael told me he calls his son Lil Chunk, but seriously, guys, what an inspiration he has been for this team this year. He'll get into his second game coming up later this afternoon. Here in the studio, I'm Haley Sutton. I'll send it back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Haley. And really, it is a fantastic story for Michael Gallup. And seeing him back in the fold was different. But now you know the journey behind what it took for Gallup to get there. It really means so much more.
Yeah, the offseason, the mini camps, the training camp, man, just see him do that. And then he was supposed to be back 1 week earlier, but he felt he wasn't ready. And then he overcame that to get a big play. And then to see that little baby, man, wow, that touches me, man.
It's a little extra motivation, right? It's
it
different whenever you, of course, get the kiddos involved. But great job from Haley on the story. And there are a couple guys that are inactive this week for the Cowboys that will try and work their way back, much like Michael Gallup has. But the biggest one to hit, Jason Peters, throughout the week of practice looked good, looked like he was going to have more and more reps going into this matchup against the Rams. But then the final padded practice, he hurts his chest. It's a chest injury that'll keep him out for a little bit of time. He's inactive. They did not put him on IR, so it will be less than 4 weeks. But, of course, Jason Peters expected to go there at offensive guard and play a significant amount of time. How big of a loss is that?
It's a big loss, and if they're trying to start him, if they want to put him in there and let him start for 40, 50, 60 plays, I'm down with that. But against these Rams, no. We need one guy in there, and that's Connor McGovern. Scheme it up, and let's get ready to go. And if we have a downfall there, let's go with Matt Fonniak. I don't believe in all this switching linemen.
No, so even
I'm good with how it's running.
Even with the injury to Peters, you don't think it's going to affect much if he wasn't going to be there for the entirety of the game?
Nah, because you got to get a rhythm as offensive line. They can't switch games properly. They can't pick up blitzes and stunts properly. I don't like all that switching in. If you're going to play Peters when he get back, put him in there for 60 plays. If not, let McGovern do it, or let Matt Fonniak do it, or let somebody do it. But whoever it is, our left tackle need consistency.
So how much pressure does that put on Kellen Moore specifically? Because without him in the fold, he's going to have to make a decision with Connor McGovern going forward and then try and make things creative up front. How much does he have to do today?
Not much. Just go back to what you was doing when McGovern went out. We started pulling our guards. We started pulling our tackles. We started blocking down with our tight ends. We started whamming with off guards and everything. He ain't got to do much. Just keep with the same game plan, but just build. McGovern is much stronger than Fonniak. He's not as strong as Peters. Peters 9-time All-Pro, but he's 40 years old. So, I see it for what it really is, and we just need to get 5 guys and work as a unit.
And that's exactly what Kellen Moore and that offense are going to try and do up against a very, very good front seven for the Los Angeles Rams. Here's the rest of the inactive list, and it, of course, has Dak Prescott there at the top, not back just yet, still working back from that thumb injury. They never put him on IR. There was a chance he could maybe return for this game, but as we got closer, really saw that that was not a realistic possibility. May not even be back next week for that Sunday Night Football matchup on the road in Philadelphia. But Jason Peters, back to Jalen Tolbert. Quentin Bohanna, that was kind of a late development as well. How big of a loss is it to have him in the middle, because he'd been eating up a lot of space like he was anticipated to do when they drafted him?
You know what, man? I've been waiting on this dude, this pancake, right? This big fat pancake that can sop up all that syrup. And we finally lose all that syrup because he was soaking up bodies, man. But Quinn, get healthy, man. We need you.
Yeah, and now with him specifically in the fold, who has to, or without him being in the fold, who has to step up?
Gallimore has to step up. All of them do, but Gallimore he can be the man. If he steps up, I mean, out of Oklahoma, third or fourth round pick. He needs to step up and be the man.
Him and Osa Odighizuwa, both third-round picks.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. Step up.
Not going to go there. You're going to leave it at that, or we're going to leave it be. But there's the inactive list. Jalen Tolbert back inactive. Are you concerned again?
I don't like that. You drafted him in the third round. Play him. Find something for this kid to do so he can feel involved.
That's the fourth time in 5 games that the rookie has not been active, so keep that in mind. Still in the wide receiving core, though, CeeDee Lamb continuing to step up his game as the season goes along. Here's what he had to say about this matchup and trying to go up against Jalen Ramsey in this Rams secondary.
I seen him my rookie year, I want to say, and that was pretty much about it. But he was following Kupp for the majority, and I can't wait to be back out there. Get to see him again.
Knowing that he is regarded as one of the tops in the league, are these the weeks that you circle on the calendar, or do you just treat it as another week, CD?
Most definitely treat it as another week. Granted, he's a great player. He's great at what he does. He's perfected his craft. He's been number one for years to come. But I feel like when you start circling stuff, that's when you feel like you're preparing for that game specifically. And I'm not. That's just another game on the schedule where I'm looking to go prove myself.
It's a road game, but it's not that far from where training camp is and all that. What are your expectations from a loud environment for both sides?
Cowboy Nation most definitely show up in LA. And like last year when we played the Chargers, it was kind of the same scenario. Definitely felt like a home game in LA.
CeeDee Lamb knows it more than anybody. This is going to be a game of matchups between the Rams and the Dallas Cowboys. Back here with Isaiah Stanback representing the offensive side of the football. We've got Barry Church representing the defensive side of the football. Taking a look at some of these matchups, starting things off with CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Ramsey. And if you're CeeDee Lamb, Isaiah, you know the challenge that's ahead of you. Ramsey is so tough. He's so physical, and he wears down on wide receivers. But how can he have success?
Well, first of all, he's got to be level-headed. I think this is going to be his most challenging game in terms of showing his emotional intelligence, because if we know anything about Mr. Jalen Ramsey, he's going to be talking at the mouth, and anybody knows better is going to be Barry Church. He played with him down there in Jacksonville.
You didn't talk that much, right?
I let him do all the talking.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
No, but one of the things that you know about this defense is they like to play a lot of cover 3, right? And Jalen Ramsey is pretty much the king of it. He's not going to travel with CD. Don't expect him to do that. He plays more zone coverage than almost any of the corners in this league, and he's very successful at it. So we're going to show you exactly what CD needs to do in terms of the beat Mr. Jalen Ramsey, because he's going to be on his side at some point in time today.
Oh, without a doubt, he's going to be on his side. He's like, you hit the nail on the coffin, all right? When this guy gets to talking, he gets in people's heads, that's when he plays his best ball. He's very confident out there. His swagger's dripping off of his jersey. So CeeDee Lamb, he's going to have his hands full.
So we've got the swagger dripping right here. So show me, how is this going to work?
All right.
How are we setting this up, Isaiah?
So right here, okay, this is field side right here, okay? So that's going to be the boundary on this side. This is going to be the field. All right, let's imagine that we're on the left side. Jalen Ramsey, we already mentioned, likes to play a lot of cover 3. Okay, he's very successful about 85% of the time. He is amazing at cover 3. So right here, I'm CeeDee Lamb. What he has to expect, okay? He's going to be on this outside shade right here, protecting that boundary. He wants to force everything inside. CD is going to have to do a great job, number one, of getting off the line of scrimmage and not allowing Jalen Ramsey to get his hands on him. He's a very physical corner. He wants to press you at the line of scrimmage, and he likes to tackle. So, number one, get his hands off you. Now, once he gets into the route, he's going to have to do a good job at the stem, okay, at the top of the route, because what's going to happen? You see this hand right here? Jalen Ramsey is going to grab him, and as he tries to come out, he is going to really grab. You guys see that hand come around, boom. He's going to try to spin him out of it to not allow CeeDee Lamb to do a good job of getting out of his break. So Number one, right at the line of scrimmage, get his hands off you. Okay, get a good release. Now at the top of your route, get his hands off you. Boom, create that separation. That is all the separation that you're expecting to get out of CeeDee Lamb. All right, that's all you need to have a good, efficient pass, because with this guy on you, it's going to be a lot of contested catches. You would rather not have to deal with those. You'd rather have at least a half a yard of space to be able to have those completions.
So CeeDee Lamb has had 97 yards last week. He's increased his production every week so far this season. He's going to have a tough time doing that this week against Jalen Ramsey. But if you flip it to the other side, Cooper Kupp has a matchup with Trayvon Diggs. And Diggs, of course, he's had a great year so far, allowing a zero passer rating on deep passes this season. Barry, if you're Trayvon Diggs, how do you slow down a guy who basically has more statistics as a receiver than anybody in the league over the last 2 years?
Well, look, Diggs is going to have his hands full as well, because Cooper Kupp, he's a Triple Crown champion, all right? This guy led the league last year in yards, receptions, and touchdowns. And that's something that hasn't been done in a long time, all right? So Cooper Kupp, he's going to be a beast to handle out there with Diggs. But I believe Diggs can do two things, all right, to help slow down that production of Cooper Kupp. One, you got to be patient with this guy, because this guy runs a lot of routes out of the stack. So let's go ahead and set it up right now.
Okay, so now I'm back in
You're
the play.
back in the thing.
Okay,
I
this
need
is
you
great.
to be Allen Robinson out there. Number one, he doesn't get a lot of targets. And then we're going to look at Cooper Kupp out there, who leads the league in targets with 54, and he has 42 receptions as well. So you know this guy's going to get the ball as well. So if I'm Trayvon Diggs out here, you got to play off, because if, with that stack situation they got going on right there, you can't go up here and press it, because you can easily get picked by Allen Robinson out there, and Cooper Kupp is out the gate. So you're going to play off right here. So the situation we got going on, Cooper Kupp's going to come off release very slowly, all right? You got to be patient with this guy, because this guy, when he releases, he likes to lull you to sleep. He comes off very slow, like he's not doing much of anything, and boom, he can lose you very easily. So you got to be patient with this guy. And the thing that Diggs needs to do, he can't have his feet in cement, all right? When that guy comes up to you, if your feet's in cement, you try to reach, he's going to teach you a lesson and go right by you, all right? So you got to have your feet moving. You got to be patient with this guy. And the second thing, and the most important thing you need to do when covering this guy, have your eyes in the right spot, all right? When he's coming at you, these feet can lie to you. That head, it can lie to you as well. But the hips don't lie, just like Shakira said. So you got to keep your eyes right on that hip, and make sure you do a little bit of that move as well. Keep your hand right there. We talked about how Jalen Ramsey loves to use that hand placement. Keep your hand right there to make sure you know exactly where this guy's going. So when he makes his move, use your leverage, because you're going to have help inside with man-to-man coverage. 9 times out of 10, Dan Quinn's defense, they have a low rat player to help you on all in-breaking routes. So make sure you use your leverage, stay outside, and keep your eyes in the right spot. And you should be able to limit Cooper Kupp's productivity out there.
That is so easier said than done. You outlined it right there, and it looks like it's that easy, but it's the same question that every defensive coordinator in the NFL has been asking themselves over the last 2 years. How do you stop Cooper Kupp? Well, Dan Quinn's going to try and answer that question that nobody's answered to this point in the NFL. Here's what he had to say about the matchup.
If there was a key, not a lot of people have unlocked that door. He's just, and it's him, but it's also Matthew as well. And getting them into plays, they motion and check, this is a zone play, this is a man play. So having the pre-snap information, you guys will see that when you watch tonight, where they try to get into a play based on a certain look. And so we'll have our work cut out for us from a disguise standpoint to make it feel like one thing and then play something different. But I would say his ability to run option routes and choice routes where he can break off a leverage or use his quickness, he's just remarkable at that part of his game. And so their connection, you can feel it, how tight they are. This look, this route. And so you'll see that tonight where they'll have some checks at the line. But that would be one of the things to me that stands out a bunch.
Cooper Kupp's numbers are impressive. 187 receptions, the 19 touchdowns, 2,300 yards. But it's more impressive whenever you put it into context. He has 57 more targets, 55 more receptions, and 700 more yards than the second best receiver in the NFL right now in each of those categories. He is absolutely unstoppable, and he has been. He showed it on the final drive of the Super Bowl. Everyone knows where the ball is going with Cooper Kupp, but they still can't stop him. So Dan Quinn's going to have to find a way to at least slow him down. So let me ask you this, Barry. You just outlined it there perfectly. But is it possible that Cooper Kupp can be limited? And if so, how does that limit the weapons around him?
Well, it's a lot easier said than done, like you said, Kyle. I mean, this guy is remarkable, like Dan Quinn was talking about. This guy, his quickness, his speed, his connection with Matt Stafford out there, it's amazing. And it's a hard thing to do. But to me, there's two things that this defense can do. One, you got to be physical with him, all right? You got to throw this timing off between him and Matt Stafford. Even if it's a run play, run through this guy. And if he puts his hands on the football, you got to make him feel it each each and every time. And the second thing they can do, and it doesn't really have to deal with the secondary as a whole, but that defensive line, you got to heat up Matt Stafford. You got to make him run around out there like he's running for his life. And I promise you, if you do that, it's going to be hard for him to find Cooper Kupp in that passing game.
He's accounted for 40% of the Rams' receptions, 40% of their receiving yards, and 75% of their touchdown grabs this season. The only other player in the NFL with 30% in each of those three categories, CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys. How about that? Keep that in mind whenever you're watching the game today. Now, Dallas native Matthew Stafford has had his fair share of battles as well against his hometown team. 4 times prior to this one, this being the 5th, and then you've of course got the 2 wins, 2 losses in the regular season. They did see Matthew Stafford as a part of a playoff game, which was won by the Cowboys when he was in Detroit. Barry was on that team.
Oh yeah.
Got to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, still that in the back pocket.
But you look at the 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, it's very similar to the stat line that he's had this year with the Rams. He leads the NFL with 6 interceptions to this point in the season, and he only has 4 passing touchdowns. Now, Isaiah, as a former quarterback, he just doesn't look like he's in a rhythm. How does Dallas defensively keep him out of that rhythm?
Continue to pressure the way in which they've been doing so all year long. I mean, you think about the amount of pressure that he's been sustaining, and this guy has not been able to sit back there and be comfortable. And as a quarterback, that's your number one asset. This offensive line is totally revamped from what they had last year. You talk about the all-time great Andrew Whitworth. He's no longer there. Okay, he's missing some guys at the center. These guys are all new. Okay, so he's not comfortable back there, as you mentioned, Kyle. And the Dallas Cowboys aren't going to make this any better for him. He also has some new receivers out there in Allen Robinson. Those guys have not gotten in sync yet. Okay, Higbee and Cooper Kupp. Those are his 2 big dogs, okay? Those are the guys that you need to be able to identify at all times. And if you could somehow, some way disrupt their ability to come off the line of scrimmage with any kind of ease, then you're going to cause him a lot of headaches.
With Matthew Stafford, and you've faced him previously, Barry, but what does he do differently from a quarterback standpoint that kind of keeps defenses off balance on the other side?
He's great at using his eyes. You know, playing that safety position, you're looking at that quarterback at all times, trying to get a little bit of an indication of where he's throwing that football. But Matt Stafford does an amazing job with his eyes. He'll lead you one direction and come back the opposite way, whether it's a deep ball, intermediate. He is great with his eyes. So if I'm the deep safety, if I'm Hooker out there, if I'm Curse, if I'm Wilson, you got to be disciplined out there and don't break until the ball is thrown. That guy can mislead you a lot. He's great with his eyes.
He's a veteran quarterback for a reason, and now he has a Super Bowl ring thanks to last season. But he's seen almost every coverage that's gone up against him, but I don't know if he's necessarily seen what Dan Quinn's going to throw at him. Isaiah's going to break that down coming up here in a second. But first, let's hear from Demarcus Lawrence on just the genius of this Cowboys defense and how things are starting to come together.
The opportunity really don't change. It's really about us honing in on our details, making sure we running our scheme and plays right, and we'll get the job done. It really don't matter who we line up against. We feel like in the defensive room, only person that can beat us is us. So once we, hone in on our details, communicate as a group, as a unit, we'll be okay.
Mike McCarthy said the defense is a thermostat. Y'all set the tone for the team. That what you see, what you believe.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Day in and day out, I feel like we do uplift our team. But also with that thermostat, comes the offense and being able to keep that energy up and play complementary football. That's what it's really about.
You'll have elite level players on each level of the defense, secondary, linebacker, court, and defensive line. Do you think that balance is what has made you guys so tough for opposing offenses to deal with?
Yes, and also I feel like it gets offenses out of their true nature of what they want to do. Being able to see rushers all across the ball. I mean, if you look around and you see Anthony Barr and Leighton Vander Esch behind us, like they look like DNs. You know what I mean? So just being able to have different arsenal of rushers, different arsenal of DBs to come out and play different positions, give them different looks and different schemes. It's kind of hard to sit there with 25 seconds on the clock and identify everything. So it's a compliment to DQ and the system that he put us in, and a compliment to the type of players we have.
Variation brings off balance. It brings disruption, and that's exactly what the Dallas defense has done throughout the season. Back here with Isaiah Stanback, that Dallas defense, 15 sacks. They're 4th in the NFL in terms of sacks per pass attempt. They get after teams, but they do it in different ways, and you're going to outline that for us here on Pregame Live in our brand new segment, Eye in the Sky. How does Dallas and Dan Quinn really challenge offenses to get out of their normal rhythm?
Well, we said it here before, Kyle. Dan Quinn is in a candy store. He has all the candy, all the Legos, all the toys that he has at his disposal right now. He absolutely loves it. You just heard D-Law talk about it in that most recent clip, how they're so versatile in their offerings and their looks. They have so many guys that are able to do so many different things, and Dan Quinn's able to put them in positions to be successful and cause mayhem for the offensive line. Now, there's 5 different categories of players that Dan Quinn has at his disposal right now. He has a run stopper, right? He has a penetrator in terms of guys to be able to get vertical and get seamed, hit those seams upside and inside of the offensive line. And then you have rush in, you have a power in, and then you have sure tacklers, okay? We're going to lay it out right here. This is one drive. So imagine as an offensive lineman, you're coming out. Back in the day, they knew exactly who was going to be in front of them every single play. That's my guy I have to deal with. Unfortunately for other teams, that's not the case against the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to start you guys off right here. Here you come right here with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is your rush in. He's the guy that causes a lot of mayhem for you, okay? The next man that you're going to see at the line of scrimmage is Big Chauncey Golston right here, okay? Chauncey Golston is our big-time run stopper. He's the guy that you ensure that you have in there to make sure there's no seepage, okay? Next man up is going to be your penetrator. That's going to be Osa Odigizua. He gets vertical, gets up the field, causes a lot of problems for teams, okay? And then we have our big power in D-Law. Look at the versatility that you have right here. You got your rush in, you got your run stopper, you have your penetrator, and you have your power defensive end. Now, that's one look. Let's go ahead and go to the next one right here. Now, again, who's going to be right here in the line of scrimmage? You have Micah Parsons. Okay, Micah Parsons, again, is your rush in. Okay, now you got to go to your linebackers, okay? There's a guy by the name of Anthony Barr. He just happens to be 6'5", 255 pounds.
He's pretty big.
He's pretty
play
big.
A little up front, right?
You just heard D-Law talk about how their linebackers are pretty much defensive ends. And then speaking of Demarcus Lawrence, you have D-Law who's now standing up over the guard, okay? He, again, is going to be your power in. Well, who's you going to put next to him? Your other big power in, okay? You're going to put Dorrance Armstrong, going to be standing up, and then poking his head up over there, right there on the defensive end position is going to be our good old guy, Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler is going to be right there at the end. So you have all these different versatile looks right here. Let's go to the next play. Okay, again, same series, okay? We're going to go right here to the edge. Okay, you got Micah Parsons. All right, right out here next to him, okay? You got your penetrator and Osa, okay? Osa Odigizua is going to be right here next to him. Then you got your run stopper in Big Bo, okay? Big Bo's going to be right here lining up over it. And then who do you have at the end? You have Big D-Law. Again, a lot of different versatile looks. You got this offensive tackle has to worry about pressure. Odigizua is getting vertical. Big Bo is going to be up there and clog one or two guys up. And D-Law is obviously going to cause trouble for this offensive tight end over here.
And even whenever you're looking at this play specifically, things could happen from Anthony Barr at the second level too. He could go up and plug a gap just as soon as the ball is snapped. So even though this is what it's showing pre-snap, things can certainly change as well.
They absolutely can change. Let's go to another play in the same drive. Okay, again, Dan Quinn's just having too much fun right now, guys. Yeah. Okay, so we got Micah Parsons over here at the rush in. Then we got my guy, Tristan Hill. All right, our good, quick guy, 300 pounds, but he's quick, getting up vertical up the field. Neville Gallimore, okay, we know how impactful he is right there in the interior defensive line. And then we have Big Armstrong, who is our Mr. Do-It-all day long. Oh, and then just for giggles, we have our guy right here, Anthony Barr, who just happens to be pretty much the same size as Dorrance Armstrong. Again, that is the fourth look on the same drive. Different layout, different strengths for each guy, causing a lot of different problems for the offensive lineman.
There couldn't be one more look, right?
Well,
there's no way.
Sure thing
They've
there
already
could.
Put it every. Oh my goodness.
Oh yes, one more time. Okay, you see guys walked up all over the place. Again, we're going with Micah right here on the edge. We got even our defensive backfield wants to get back there in.
Yeah, that's Israel
Mukuamu. But right next to there, we're going to put D-Law and Micah Parsons right next to each other. Oh my Lanta, why would you do such a thing? And then you have right here, you got Leighton Vander Esch, who's going to be standing up over the center. He's 6'4", 250 pounds as well. And then Dante Fowler is going to be right next to him, okay? And then we got right there on the end, we have again Osa Odigizua. You have all different types of guys that can get vertical, guys that can hold up one or two offensive linemen, and then guys that can get around the end. This is a complete problem. That's why the Dallas Cowboys are leading the league in quarterback pressures right now. Offensive linemen don't know what to do. Offensive coordinators are losing their mind. This is an amazing job.
It really is fantastic to see the amount of depth that this defense brings to the table. You've got the star power with Parsons and Diggs and, of course, what you've had with D-Law for quite some time now. But there's more than just star power. There's depth, there's levels, and there's layers to this that Dan Quinn can play around with, and you can see it just by the different variations he puts on defense. One of those stars, though, Micah Parsons, he's still having himself a season. He still hasn't had a sack in the last 2 weeks. He's trying to get back into that category, but really the goal for him is to be an elite defense, and that's what he's pushing for here in 2022.
You know, defense wins championships. This is an offensive league. I think defense has always been the key to win games. At the end of the day, you can score as many points, but if you don't get no stops, what does it matter? I mean, you see teams putting up 48 points and you're still losing. Like, what does that mean in this game? You know, defense, you look at the greatest teams or one of the better teams that ever won Super Bowls, they always had a top-tier defense. You look at the Bucs 2 years ago. I mean, you look at the Seahawks when Q was there, their defense was phenomenal. Those when you hold teams to limited points and, you know, I actually sent Q a picture of the top defense. It talks about the Ravens when they held teams to under 13 points that year and the 15 points with the 49ers. And I was like, man, I want to be on this list. I want to be a top 10 defense. And that's just been the goal. And he took that and he's been putting into everybody and pouring his soul into us. And we've just been taking the bet.
What about Aaron Donald? Can you watch him?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their defense last year. I mean, with him, Vaughn, Donald, Leonard Floyd, I mean, Ramsey, Williams, I mean, that defense was, I mean, where could you even slide the protection to? I mean, you can't block all those guys, you know, that's insane. I don't even know how the league let that happen.
Micah Parsons knows the challenge ahead for the Cowboys offense up against that Los Angeles Rams defense. And as Newton's first law of motion states, an object that remains in motion will remain in motion until a force acts upon it. Well, the Rams defense has been a force behind Jalen Ramsey. What a career he's had. One of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and he's continued to do that as the number 4th graded, highest graded corner according to Pro Football Focus. But then you've got at the second level, Bobby Wagner, a future Hall of Famer who's come in his first season on the West Coast and provided another element for that defense. And then he's playing right behind one of the greatest to ever do it, Aaron Donald. He has been so good again. At the age of 31, he's still the best interior defensive lineman in the entire game. So a challenge for this offensive line, a challenge for the entire unit led by Kellen Moore and, of course, Cooper Rush. So why did I bring up Newton's first law of motion? That's because we've got a couple more laws to give you here on Pregame Live. Nate Newton, Haley Sutton, Barry Church, take it away.
All right, we're not going to get super scientific like Kyle just did, but there are 3 laws that we want to talk about when we're talking about this Rams defense. So, Nate, break it down for us.
You know what? It's Newton's laws, but I'm telling you, this Rams team with this guy Aaron Donald, there's no laws. This guy is going to do certain moves, certain things that he like to do to dominate a guard or a tackle because he can move all over the place. So what we're going to do here with Mr. Church is we're going to do the guard thing first because that's me.
Okay.
So he's lining up as Aaron Donald.
That's
so
we
know, this is our Aaron Donald.
What a guard likes to do, I'm going to give you 3 different ways. You can get an inside eye, which I'll sit down, boom, and I got to stay square, head up, butt drop, knees bent.
Okay.
He can come a head up, and I just double step and sit down and punch.
I'm not going to do all that.
Yes, okay. And then he can get an outside eye. He can get an outside eye. That's why I have to sit back, punch. Or I can set him quick. Okay. But I got to get my hands on him.
Let's see
it. You see what I'm saying? But what he loves to do is get his hands inside. So I'm going to turn right here. He loves to shoot his hands inside. That way I can't control. He want to control me. The first thing he want to do is bull rush me, get me going back. So the next time what he does when he does that, he'll freeze me, and then he'll snatch me. Either way, boom. I'm not worried about the run. I'll handle him on the run.
You got it.
You know, because I always have 2 tight ends, and we'll be going from a 12 look, so we look to run on him or block down on him. So I'm not worried about the run. It's the pass, and that's what he looks for as a guard. But as a tackle, I didn't play but 1 year tackle. Thank God. I'd have been out of the league. As a tackle, he wants you to float on him. He wants to use speed at first. Mm-hmm. So when I'm floating on you, he wants to either get outside, boom, and make me turn and run, or he wants to get inside. I'm floating on him, boom. And when he gets you to guessing, and this 2 or 3, and this is like 3rd and 10, 2nd and 8, he gets you to guessing. And all of a sudden, you go to do that, you go to float on him, and he just run you straight over, boom, boom, right into the quarterback.
So when you're looking at this from the Cowboys side of the ball, when you've got a guy who's doing all these different moves, how do you succeed?
How do you succeed? It's called run, and run again. And then you do a little draw play where you pass it and let him get upfield. And don't worry about it because we got Tony Pollard. He'll do his thing, get off of it. He's a lawbreaker. He's a speed guy. Hit him with some traps. Let him go inside, hit him with some traps. You'll be all right. But other than that, this guy hard to stop.
He's hard to stop, but nobody better prepared to take on Aaron Donald than Zach Martin on that offensive line. Let's hear what he had to say about this matchup.
Yeah, we try to 1 week at a time. I mean, that kind of stuff, I guess, is for you guys a little bit. I mean, you got to bring your A game every single week, whoever you're going against, and then obviously on the road. Anytime you're on the road, it brings us different kind of challenges. So we'll be ready to go, and it should be a great matchup for us.
Have you found that when you play the Rams, they keep Aaron Donald mostly to the other side, or have you gotten
No.
your opportunities with him too?
No, I think they're just trying to look for a one-on-one matchup. They don't really care who it's against. They're just trying to find a one-on-one for him. So in my experience, he's played all over the place. They're just trying to get him a one-on-one.
Also on the press conference today, Mike was asked if he's ever used like a point spread as motivation. He said he never had, but then he talked about the 5.5 on this game, and he said we're nobody's underdog.
Yeah.
Do you like your head coach saying that? Does that kind of exemplify what everyone feels in here?
Yeah, I don't ever really look at point spreads, but I would agree with that. I wouldn't think we're underdogs. Yeah, it's going to be a great game. They're a great football team, but I think we got a ton of confidence in our group, and it's going to be a really good football game.
It'll be a tough task for Zach Martin and that entire Dallas Cowboys offensive line going up against Aaron Donald and that front seven from the Los Angeles Rams as we welcome you back here to Cowboys Pregame Live. Barry, Isaiah, and Nate, I'm Kyle Yeomans, and let's talk about this because Aaron Donald has been as good as anybody. He's first in tackles for loss, first in sacks, first in pressures among all defensive tackles in the NFL since the start of the 2021 season. But Micah Parsons, first in all those categories for linebackers since the start of the 2021 NFL season. So who would you rather have to build your team around? Would you rather have Micah Parsons or Aaron Donald, Barry?
Ooh, that's a tough one, man. But I'm going to have to go with Aaron Donald on
wow.
this one, man. Cause like
on a Cowboys show?
On a Cowboys show, I understand. But the way he's able to be first in all those categories while being a defensive tackle, that means you got to deal with centers, guards, everything, double teams, and he's still able to put up those numbers. I got to go with Aaron Donald on this one.
Okay, Isaiah?
This year, I'm going with Micah Parsons.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm going with Micah Parsons this year is because he has twice as many sacks. He has more hits on the quarterback, and he has more quarterback pressure. So in this particular year, I'm going to take a Micah Parsons that I could put all over the defensive front and at the second level versus having Aaron Donald just lining up in the tackle position at the DN.
Why are you putting an asterisk on it? Well, why just this year? What about in the future?
I can't speak in the future because I'm not Miss Cleo, but Aaron Donald overall has had a great career.
What about you, Nate?
Man, this is the first time I ever went against a Cowboy. This is the first time I've ever went against a Cowboy. You speak on this year, I'm going to speak in the past. Who got the Super Bowl? Who got more Pro Bowls? Who got more sacks? Aaron Donald's. He's like a magnet.
Yeah.
He's like a magnet. He eat up bodies, bro. I'm telling you. Don't do that to yourself, Isaiah.
Oh, my goodness. No, I'm joining with you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Give me Micah Parsons.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is 23 years old. I can build a team around the 23-year-old. The other one is 31. Give me the guy who's going to be here for the next decade and a half. Aaron Donald might be here for a decade and a half. Who knows? The guy has been unbelievable so far. I mean, how can you count him out? So I can certainly see where you're coming from, but give me the Dallas guy. Give me Micah Parsons.
Man, that hurt
He's
me,
been
Mike.
so
I'm
good.
sorry, Mike.
Nate doesn't like going against the Cowboys. All right, Donovan Wilson has been fantastic coming into a role with Jaron Kearse on the sidelines, 7th in the NFL in terms of total tackles this season. He's got 27 solo tackles to go along with everything that he's done up to this point. Last week might have been the best game of his career without a takeaway. He's been so good on that defensive side. But Jaron Kearse makes his return this week. So, Barry, what kind of role will Donovan Wilson still play with Kearse back in the fold?
I got to see him still in that same role, all right? I don't want to see any snaps taken away from Wilson. I understand what Kearse brings to the table. He's that quarterback of the defense. He has that calming factor. But Wilson, man, he's been playing like his hair is on fire out there. He's the tone setter of his defense right now. And in Dan Quinn's system, he's getting similar to that, that X factor, that chess piece, like how they use Micah Parsons. They're using Wilson's as well. He's rushing the passer. He's back in coverage. He's making plays everywhere on this football field. You got to keep that momentum going. I hope his reps do not take a cut because of Kearse coming back.
I need Donovan Wilson to continue to be that guy. My hitter. I need him to continue to come on and keep being that physical presence in the secondary, at the second level, and at the line of scrimmage. He is not only having a big impact on these receivers and keeping their head on a swivel, but he's coming down and making plays that you see on the highlight reel, but he's also making the plays that you don't see on the highlight reel and stopping these guys from having an effective running game. So, Dono, keep being that dude.
Man, his ceiling, it just keep rising. His value just keep rising like the stock market, man. He's at the top right now, so you don't get rid of that when you're at the top. I think you should just play this kid and let him do what he do and fit Curse in, get him on the pitch count, do anything to just slow down his deal, because once Curse get 100%, y'all know what's going to happen.
Yeah, the good news is that Curse is back here.
Yeah.
He's had 92 tackles a year ago for a reason. He had an impact on that defense. But there is some bad news for the Cowboys. The biggest news of the week, Jake McQuaid out for the season, the deep snapper for the Cowboys. I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek because it is the deep snapper position, and everybody's saying, why are we talking about the deep snapper? But Isaiah, you can attest to this. It is a step-by-step muscle memory sort of operation that those guys go through. And now Matt Overton has been added to the practice squad, elevated for the game. He will be the one handling those duties today against the Los Angeles Rams. How does that affect things?
It affects absolutely everything. Now you're going into the special teams units, okay, whether it be a field goal, whether it be punts, and now you have a question mark regarding, is this going to be in continuous of what we're trying to do? Is this going to be a good snap for my holder? Is my holder going to be able to get the ball down? Like all these different things. Now, as a kicker, as a field goal kicker, now your sequence is thrown off, okay? If the holder doesn't get it down and we're going to get the ball where it needs to be, am I going to be able to go through with my normal step, my normal footage? So it's all messed up. I hate that they're in this position. A lot of people don't pay attention to this particular position, but it is very, very important.
And tore his tricep, McQuaid did, out for the season. Overton, he was on the Rams practice squad earlier this year, so he's going up against his former team, but he was on the active roster for the Chargers, the Titans, and the Colts his last 3 stops. So he has made his way around the NFL, but he worked his way into practice, as you can see there, with the Cowboys earlier this week, and he was one of those 4 guys they worked out, one of the 2 they signed to the practice squad, and he's the one that they elevated to handle the duties. Today he'll be wearing the number 45 in the Navy jerseys for the Cowboys. But let's go back out to SoFi Stadium, because one of the guys who had to make a decision on replacing deep snapper Jake McQuaid, Stephen Jones, Cowboys COO, joins our very own Nick Eatman.
Thank you, Kyle. And yes, we're here with Stephen Jones here at SoFi Stadium. Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer, and every time you come over to do these interviews here before the game, you got this anxious feeling about you. What's the feeling this time? Any different?
Probably more so. I mean, here we are in this amazing stadium and playing the Super Bowl champs. So they got the jewelry and we don't. Yeah. And they've got some great players as well. I mean, obviously going against one of our hometown heroes and Matthew Stafford, and hats off to what he's accomplished, but probably one of the best players in football too, and Aaron Donald, and they got Ramsey over there, and of course Cooper Kupp. There's a reason why they won the big one. Right. So we'll have our work cut out for us today, but I know our guys are coming to play too.
Yeah, you remember way back in '93, you guys were the Super Bowl champs, defending champs, 2-2. Obviously, there was reasons for that with Emmitt Smith not being there early, but still everybody's gunning for you. Do you feel like, is that something that's unique to the Super Bowl champions, or as a Dallas Cowboy, do you feel like you always have that target on your back?
Well, I think any Super Bowl champ's got a target, and then you do feel like at times the Cowboys, people take, they want to get us for sure, and they like to get after the Cowboys, but we're up for that. We know what comes with being a Dallas Cowboys. Our players know that. Our coaches, our organization, I know that's what comes with having the star on your helmet. So that's part of it, but it's a good thing.
I think Mike McCarthy said this week, we're nobody's underdogs, just being for everything you just said. All right, to the game here, what are some of the things that concern you the most about this matchup against the Rams? You said they got great players. Which one concerns you the most?
Well, there's several of them that concern you. I mean, you start with Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's going to get his targets, and he's probably going to get some quite a few catches too. But he just figures out how to get open, and Stafford throws him open, and that's part of it. The other one, of course, Aaron Donald out there. You've got to contend with him. I mean, he does it any and every way, getting back there to be disruptive, whether it's the run game or getting to the quarterback in the pass game. He brings so much to the table. And then, of course, you can stay away from Ramsey if that's your decision. But certainly one of the best in the business as one of the top corners in the league.
Both games you played here at SoFi against the Rams and the Chargers have both ended with 20-17 scores. So that means maybe if this one's the same, it's going to come down to special teams. You got a new deep snapper this week, Matt Overton. Any concerns there with him? He's been in the league for a while, but the whole operation of field goals and punts.
I think that's the big thing. I mean, he's been in the league. I feel good about him getting the snaps back there. It's just the overall operation, having a new guy in there and getting used to that. But, these guys are professionals, and Anger will do a good job holding that ball, and it's not as important in terms of the punting part of this, but the kicking operation, it'll be, they've worked on that this week, and they feel good about it.
All right, there's a lot of Cowboy fans here. I'm sure you're hoping they got plenty to cheer about here today.
Absolutely. Great being on.
All right, Stephen Jones, Kyle, back to you.
Thanks so much, Nick and Steven, out there at SoFi Stadium as we wrap things up and then send you to kickoff. It's the Cowboys and the Rams, 3:25 kick on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt along with Greg Olson on the call for the second straight week. But we've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton giving our keys to the game. Barry, I'll start with you. How do the Cowboys come out 4-1?
Well, I'm looking at Cooper Rush for this one. Cooper, continue to doing what you're doing. Be that steadying force for the offense. Take care of the football. You've done a great job of keeping the football out of harm's way. Continue to do that. No turnovers, and I think we'll walk away with a dub.
Don't let the Los Angeles Rams offense get hot. Right now, they are a sleeping giant. Don't be the one to trip and wake them up, because once they wake up, you can't put them back to sleep.
Greg Gaines, number 91. We ain't talked about this kid. He's a UW guy.
There it is.
He's a hog in the middle. They seem to develop hogs. I mean, we had one against the Tampa Bay Bucks. But I'm telling you, don't let this guy get loose, because if he get loose, that means Aaron Donald is having a great day. And we have to control that middle and keep it clean so our quarterback won't panic.
Did we really just have a Washington Husky reference?
Absolutely. Right, them dogs is everywhere, baby. You see it.
Okay. No, stop it. Former Husky himself, Isaiah Stanback. I like the keys to the game, though. Overall, don't turn the football over. Take care of it. Don't wake up the sleeping giant, because that's what the Rams are right now. They will wake up, but let's see if the Cowboys can make them under 500 for the first time after week 1 in the Sean McVay era. They have not been under 500. They're going to try and do so on the road at SoFi Stadium. That does it for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Enjoy it, everybody. We'll be back with Cowboys Game Night, Cowboys OT, and a whole lot more following the final score of that one. For Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, Haley Sutton, Nick Eatman, Rob Phillips, I'm Kyle Yeomans, our entire Cowboys crew. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll see you afterwards.